Hello, my name is Catherine Emmerich, and I'm here to talk about my reference shadowing experience. Now, there were a lot of different interactions with patrons and students that far surpassed my expectations in my particular shadowing experience. I currently work in a reference department as well, so I chose a community college so that it was a completely different experience than what I have on a day-to-day basis at work. The librarian that I shadowed was absolutely lovely and so composed, and it just made the shadowing experience just 10 times better. But the particular thing I wanted to talk about was an ethics issue that occurred. And ethics are very important to me because I have a very strong moral compass, and I have a bit of a hard time struggling with students who don't necessarily have that moral compass in the academic world. So a little bit of context about the particular library that I worked with. It was a community college. It was MCC in Warren. It caters to primarily lower income students, and many of the patrons aren't actually students at all. They're community members who come in to use the resources. The students mainly come for the writing center, and everybody else, including the students actually, use the reference area for printing and IT help because that is where the student printers are and the computer lab, and they there are not very many reference questions on a day-to-day basis. It took me a couple of days of shadowing to actually get some decent reference questions. And the librarian that I was shadowing said that that's a common problem. But one of the reference questions that we had was from a student who went to the writing center and was sent down to us. She was studying to be a PCT and needed help with a paper that she had to write for her class. The assignment was to read an academic article from a medical journal and relate it to what they were learning about in class. Now, she asked us for three areas of help. One was helping her access the article through the medical databases that they had access to through their library. The second was to help her understand the article and relate it to her classwork and previous PowerPoints that she had and notes. And the third was to help with the citations and how to cite it. Now, the first one and the last one we can do because technically um, the first one, accessing in a database, is a reference librarian's job, or a librarian in general, is to help the patron access the materials. And the last one, we were given citation and reference handouts and information for the students and are all trained in MLA, APA, and Turabian formats, so we can help the students cite, and that was another job that this particular reference section had when the writing center was overwhelmed with students. So, the second one would be the problem because we had a lot of issues with the fine line of plagiarism. Because librarians are there to help and they are technically faculty members. They are instructional inside the library, but outside of the library they are non-instructional and they do not teach classes. We were not busy and the student was in visible distress about this issue, so we wanted to help the best of way we could. However, Article 7, Section E of the Student Code of Conduct for Macomb states a person who is guilty of plagiarism who fails to give credit for any ideas or material taken from another for either written or oral presentation. So this we ran into a particular issue because we could help her access it and we could help her read it if she was having a hard time understanding the words, but we could not, in fact, help her relate it to her class because not only were we not medical librarians, nor was that either one of our undergrad degrees or subjects of expertise, but it would have been plagiarism for the university. So we had a very hard time instructing her that this was something that we could not help her with. And the librarian I was shadowing acted with dignity and grace and did it in the nicest way possible, saying that we couldn't help her, but if she took notes, that she could take it to the writing center and they could help her with the paper. So I think it was a great example of a reference interview for this particular type of library with the community college, because of a lot of students come in and they don't know how to write or reference articles or read analytically, and so it was a great way for us to be able to be hands-on with a student and help them to the best of our ability within the fine line of ethics. And so it was very hard because I wanted to be able to help her and say, well, I would write this with that, but I could not. Um, I'm still debating what I would have done if I was alone and had not had the librarian that I shadowed with me, because I work in a law library where I'm analyzing stuff all of the time, and I could not help her analyze her thing because that would have been, I don't know if she would have plagiarized and not given me credit for the ideas that I came up with, nor do I know if my knowledge of what she had studied would have been correct enough for her to write a paper on it. So recently I checked in with the librarian that I shadowed, and the student has not returned. So hopefully the writing center helped her to the best of their ability, and she did very well in the paper. Overall, I had a wonderful experience, and I hope you all did too. Thank you so much for watching my presentation.